Time to get into another crazy video with these woke people and crazy ideologies and how they think what they're doing is totally normal on Piers Morgan. But as I usually say, I am not going to talk anymore, so let us get into the video.
Libs of TikTok, short for liberals, is one of the most popular and controversial accounts on social media. It highlights examples of LGBT excess posted publicly by, well, libs, such as this recent post of a man in a dog's mask with the comment, "There's a serious mental health crisis in this country." Well, Haya Raychik is the creator of Libs of TikTok. This weekend, she sparred with Washington Post reporter Taylor Lorenz, who was mystifyingly wearing a mask outside. The encounter went viral and was variously described as unhinged, cringeworthy and agonising, with both parties being on the receiving end of all of those criticisms. Here's a taster of what she said.
I'm asking you, why is it that people have to live under your sort of view of gender? And
it's not my view, it's science. It's facts, it's biology. There's nothing logical about chopping off kids' body parts. There's nothing logical about giving kids porn in school. The whole trans it's based on a lie. You can't change your gender.
Personally, my feeling is that I believe in personal liberty. I grew up in a town where a lot of people, for their middle school graduation, women got nose jobs. I was just wondering, out of all the books that you've sort of tried to get removed, how many have you read?
I've read a couple of them.
Which ones?
Genderqueer. I've read This Book is Gay. My Shadow is Pink.
And what do you consider gay porn in these books?
This is a blowjob.
In the conservative movement, there's this ideology around sort of white nationalism, which is obviously kind of a hardline ideology. How do you feel about sort of aligning yourself with those people on account?
Not all cultures are equal.
But let's just get back to the Great Replacement stuff, because I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that whole ideology?
There were some months over the past 3 years that there were more illegals coming into our border than children being born. They're importing people who want to destroy America.
So is Libs of TikTok really hateful or just shining a legitimate light on woke insanity? In a moment, we'll discuss that and more with tonight's pack. Here in the studio, Uncensored contributors Esther Cracker and Ava Santina, and a New York Fox Nation host and author of Nuff Said, my friend Tyrus. But first, I'm joined by the Libs of TikTok creator, Haya Raychik. Well, Haya, thank you very much indeed for joining me on Uncensored.
If anyone has watched WWE, I'm sure you guys will be familiar with that guy, the big guy they just showed a few seconds ago with the tattoos. But if anyone remembers his name, comment it down if you do recognize him. But I'm sure he used to be in the WWE as a wrestler, which is very interesting seeing him here. Side note.
I've got to say, I read a lot of your tweets, and the ones that I absolutely love are where you expose rank hypocrisy, where you simply show people a statement by a liberal, normally about something to do with the right wing or conservative arm, and then you have a response which just highlights the hypocrisy.
Piers, thanks so much for having me on. It's great to be here. Yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy to expose, and it's part of the reason why they hate me so much, because I'm just sharing themselves in their own words and pointing out their hypocrisy, and they just can't handle seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, you've become a hate figure and a figure that's very popular as well. How do you deal with the reaction? I mean, you've got an aggressive interview there with the Washington Post journalist. Do you care? Does it deter you?
No, not at all. The hate actually keeps me going because the people that hate me are the most vile people on earth, and the fact that they hate me tells me that I'm doing something great. I would actually be upset if the people who are pro-genital mutilation and pro-giving kids porn in school and pro-sexualizing kids, I would be kind of concerned if they liked me.
A lot of what she was saying is true. I would also be confused and wouldn't really want these types of people to be on my side who support all these degenerate acts. These people hate the truth, and I point that out in all the videos I do on my channel. They don't care about the truth. It's all about feelings and liberation, which is all a lie, like that woman who was interviewing her said. They don't really care about liberation. They care about liberation when it's things that they want to engage in, which tend to be degenerate things.
Right. I mean, many people will watch this and they'll agree with you. Do you think some of the ways you express yourself have crossed a line? Are there any of the tweets you've done where, with hindsight, you would have phrased things a little differently?
No, I stand by every single one of my tweets. I'm very proud of the work that I have done to expose the sexualization and grooming of children and to expose the hypocrisy of the left.
Okay, well, let's bring in the panel here to discuss this. Ava, I mean, it's a hugely popular account, this, various accounts, but it's hugely popular. What do you think of it?
I find it quite hateful, but I think that's the intent, right? Because people are addicted to receiving click gratification and they like to be retweeted and they like to be liked online, and a really good way to go about that is to stoke fear and to stoke loathing. You know, that one video you just showed us, Sarah, of that person in a mask and he's, you know, they are like poring over a couple of slices of bread. Yeah, that's totally nuts. But does that person deserve to go viral and have their life destroyed? Probably not. It's very weird behaviour, but it's almost like capital punishment.
But there's a lot of people on the woke side who are also extremely hateful and, you know, pricking their balloon actually could be a valuable public service, exposing the rank hypocrisy of much of the woke
what have we actually
insanity in terms of the way...
One thing people need to realize, and I really want people to note this, and they really need to start realizing it about these people is, and what I mean by these people is, I mean the woke people is, they'll always try and make something seem much worse than it actually is. She compared that person with a dog mask being posted on social media to capital punishment. Always like to muddy the waters and make people seem evil when they're truly the evil ones. If the person has the freedom to do what he was doing with his dog mask and acting that way, and someone obviously recorded him and he knew they were recording and it got posted on social media, he has to face the consequences of what happens when other people share that on social media. The problem in society today is people want to engage in whatever degenerate acts they want to engage in and not suffer the consequences that come along with it. With freedom, you also have the responsibility of other people with freedom being able to criticize you. But these people want freedom and nobody should be able to criticize them. She clearly herself said it's weird, and other people posted on social media and also said it is weird. But of course, she's allowed to do that, but other people aren't.
The way they express themselves, I think, is important.
But what have we actually exposed here? Have we not just exposed some people are quite strange? I mean, is there any actual humanitarian good from posting these people online?
Well, I think what happens is when you tend to be on a corner of social media, you don't even want to be there, but you're in an echo chamber. So actually the algorithm doesn't allow you to see these things. The fact that this website or the libs of TikTok just repost things that are already posted by libs, I think is quite telling. It's not fabricating things that don't exist. I do appreciate it may not be helpful to say something that someone who's clearly mentally unwell is mentally unwell for it to go viral and for them to be trolled on the internet. But I think the fundamental premise is it's not making stuff up. These are things that exist. This person arguably put it on social media. If he goes viral because another account retweets it, what's the big deal?
I kind of agree. I mean, it's bringing Tyrus. I mean, Tyrus, there is a lot of hypocrisy on all sides on social media. We know that.
Yeah.
But what do you make about the few...
I'm actually...
Sorry, go on.
Before we get back into the video, I need everyone to turn on their post notifications so that you get notified whenever one of my videos come out. Like the video as much as possible, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitter at YinkaThatGuy. Let us get back into the video.
I'm actually upset. I want to be made fun of by libs of TikTok. I love you guys. I think you need to open up. I need to open up libs. You need to come after conservatives also. There's a lot of dumb shit coming out of people's mouths, and I think the biggest thing is just hearing that argument.
Yeah.
I watched that interview, and here's the thing: it's freedom of speech. Whether you like it or not in America, you're not going to like everything. People go after you. I think what libs is doing is they're just putting a mirror on you. Now, if she was just writing the stuff and just doing what everyone else is doing, basically the parrot procedure, the woman that she's arguing with was basically saying, have you read any books? I'm willing to bet the woman that said that to her didn't, because she didn't give her any names. So I think what has to happen is, if you're in situations like that, I don't think any book should be burned. I do think, though, there should be, just like anything else, a pack of cigarettes. In America, you got to be 18. If there's a book that has as high sexual content or instructions or a biography, it needs to be labeled and such. And if a child is curious or has those questions, that's a book that needs to be checked out with their family. So there needs to be access to those things, but we need to remember to be adults in the room. Anytime, like I said, if you would have said, if they would have said, hey, let's sit down and read this book together and actually figure out what's wrong. And that's boring, and it's a long thing, because in America especially, we're all parrots. We only want to read about 8 lines, if that, and then we take that and go argue with it. And we're seeing that on TV. We see everyone, like people like us, we come on, we read the headline and read a little paragraph. No one's actually, so you got to do the work. You got to go find the books, and then you can have a real conversation. We don't have real conversations anymore.
Yeah.
We're parrots, we repeat stuff, and whoever barks the loudest gets the most likes and tweets. So Libs is not doing anything that CNN doesn't do, every news media doesn't do. Look for a gotcha moment. Someone said something, they take it out of context and place it. Here's the thing, the Libs aren't even doing that. They're just putting it. So keep doing what you do, but I'm sure if you watch me, you can make fun of me on something. Like my arms are crossed on TV, something.
One thing I also want to point out, and I want a lot of people to listen closely to this, the freedom that we always talk about and the freedom and the rights to do what you want is all a load of lies. There are restrictions on everything, even this so-called freedom that we like to talk about. You're free to say whatever you want to say until you say certain things. There's restrictions on everything. Even the so-called right to free speech has restrictions. So is it really free speech? It's not really, because on everything there are restrictions. And people really need to start opening their minds to how people have been lied to and how they've masked things to seem as if they're other things when they're not really that. Freedom in the way that we talk about it in America specifically is all a lie.
We're bringing in people who don't want to, Taylor used the term melting pot, but they don't want to join the melting pot. They don't like America. They don't like what we stand for.
Okay, Ava, you were saying that was disgraceful. Why?
Well, I'm just sort of confused, because I'm not really too sure what you're adding to America or what you're actually contributing in comparison to this, this quote-unquote importing third world. What are you talking about? People who migrate to America or people who migrate to the UK and then, I don't know, work in your health service and, work for you. What are you actually contributing? Just because the colour of your skin is white doesn't mean that you are somehow more valuable than someone else.
That's not what she's saying.
I mean, it is what she's saying.
Here because this is it's not what she's saying.
I never mentioned skin color.
But you did. You said importing the third world, and we know what those connotations mean. Let's not play stupid here. We know exactly what you mean by that.
No. You are adding. I didn't get that from that.
Are you denying those videos that are constantly all over social media?
What videos?
The videos of the third world in the West totally destroying the cities. Look at videos of England.
Let me bring Taurus. Taurus,
if I could just have listen.
Don't talk over each other. Taurus, have your say.
Yeah, here's the thing. This is what happens. So she got asked like 700 major questions, and she tried to answer each one, and they're all gotcha questions. She said some cultures, and listen, America, when the melting pot, you come to assimilate. This is where, if I could give you any advice, do not do these interviews. Because they're only designed to get you to ask you as many questions. It's like a rapid fire. Boom, boom, boom. And you're answering them as fastly as you can, and that's the problem. Each one of those conversations you had was at least a 40-minute conversation on, like, my show Outkick. Like, each one were long and diverse, and there's no quick answer to them. You got to stop doing the quick answers when you're interviewed. Because now they're going to say you're racist because you're just being the grouping. When you group, and that's what she was doing back to you. She was trying to group you in because by the color of your skin, because you're racist, because you're putting out stuff and you're asking a question. If people are coming to this country not to assimilate, to do whatever they want, and what we're seeing on our streets and what we're seeing in the streets of London, not a lot of assimilation.
But you see, there are good on your streets is, I mean, particularly
or there are good immigrants that come here, but you can't just say, oh well, sometimes when you group it, you ease it, but you don't want to group her. You want to make her into this racist person.
But a lot of the violence that you see in America is perpetrated.
No different than you and any news group. You're taking what she's saying, you're turning it around to fit your narrative, and then you're throwing it back at her. Like, do some actual research on her. The woman's not racist at all. I'd be the first one to go at her.
A lot of the crime that you're talking about is perpetrated by American citizens.
Be better than that. Okay. You're better than that.
Right.
Get her on context.
Well, she did accuse me at the beginning of this interview.
But don't attack her skin. You're better than that.
I didn't attack her skin.
She said that my intent is to be a hate account. So.
I mean, it is. It's to capitalize on hate, fear, and loathing. That is it. And it's okay. You should
let Ava respond.
You can ask me what's my intent of this account. My intent is not to stoke hate.
Okay, but what,
you just accused me of that at the beginning of this interview.
What is the, I mean, I suppose that you're going to say that the intent of your account is to shine light on things that actually just don't need to be shone light on at all. And as we saw from that interview, that where you were exposed, you're not really, you know that you're not actually exposing anything. You're not actually presenting any new danger to anyone. You're just shouting sound bites and hoping that somehow they land and they go viral.
So kindergarten teachers teaching 4-year-olds that they could be transgender, I shouldn't expose that?
Right.
As I've said several times with these people, they don't care about the truth. And if the truth was to slap them in the face, they would say it's not the truth. All they do is regurgitate the same things they hear day in and day out when people do not agree with them. If people don't agree with them, the first things that you will hear them say is you're racist, you're a homophobe, you're thisophobe, you're everything phobe, you're everything ism. That's all they do because they don't have any real argument. So all they'll try and do is categorize you, which is very ironic because the same thing that they complain that people do, they also do to other people.
Really any of your business though? Is it really actually hurting you or hurting any American citizens?
I'm sorry, I think this is quite unfair. At the end of the day, I do think that a lot of the things that have been exposed by libs of TikTok are actually very valid, like what the kind of content children are consuming in schools, the kind of things they're exposed to, you know, questioning the justification of taking off people's limbs and different body parts when you wouldn't do that for someone who's of rational mind. I think the problem that we tend to find is when you're fighting on a side, you tend to effectively choose the path of least resistance and just say things that will connect, but you don't particularly articulate it. So I'm assuming when you say things like we're importing the third world, and I'm assuming this is what you're saying, you're talking about values. What kind of values are these people bringing into your country? Are they assimilating with the dominant culture? And I think these are valid points to make because over the last few years, we've seen millions of people cross the southern border. They haven't been audited. We don't know what values these people are bringing into the country. We don't even know who they are. These are valid points to make. And unfortunately, you don't get that opportunity to effectively articulate that properly when you're in doing short form interviews like this. So I think that's a perfectly valid point. But to say that she's not exposing anything that's important, these are the kinds of things that will actually sway the next election. So people are concerned about it and you should be concerned about it.
And that is the absolute truth. The problem with these people is they'll do things like this woman Ava does all the time and say, well, is it hurting you? Why do you care about it? It has nothing to do with you. As long as they're not harming anyone, you shouldn't care. And all those things that they say are all just ways to avoid the truth. What if I'm someone who cares about the truth and that's why I speak the way I speak, or that's why she says the things that she says and posts the things that she posts? People care about the truth and people want to help their fellow neighbors know the truth. Maybe that might be the reason why she posts the things that she posts. But anyway, that was another video, another reaction. As I usually say, if you guys enjoyed the video, like the video as much as possible, comment down below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitter at YinkaThatGuy, and I'm out.